Hi, welcome everyone to Adulting 101. And our first workshop is table setting and etiquette. And I'm so excited to partner with the University of Maryland Extension Office and 4-H programs. And today for our demonstrations, I just want to introduce our guest, Jessica Mellon. She's going to be leading us through the workshop today. And we have a little slideshow to go over things. Hi, Jessica. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Yes, if you wouldn't mind putting up our slideshow, that will keep us on track. But my name is Jessica Mellon. I'm a 4-H educator with the University of Maryland Extension. I'm located in Allegheny County, which is in Western Maryland. And from the registration forms, I see that we have participants from across the state. So thank you so much for joining us. Today, with table setting and etiquette, we have a few goals. The first goal is for you to be able to set a casual table for your family. The second goal is for you to become more familiar and comfortable with a formal table setting in case you are ever at a business meeting or a business luncheon where you'll be eating. Also, it's useful for weddings, and perhaps when you grow up, you just want to be a really fancy person. We'll also spend a little time on etiquette because you can have a beautiful table, but if your manners do not match the table, there can be some problems. So we'll start off with introductions, then we'll get into our table setting, our mealtime etiquette, and we'll have time for questions, and we'll do our survey and wrap up. So for our introductions, our next slide, please. If you could, in the chat box, would you please put in your first name, your county, or if you live in Baltimore City, put Baltimore City, your school, and then since this is about mealtime and eating, please share your absolute least favorite food in the chat box. I haven't seen anyone chatting in the chat box yet.
Oh, here we go.
Jesse's least are onions and tomatoes. Oh, well, it just so happens that my favorite is tomatoes, but my least would probably be green peppers, actually. Okay, we have Alexis. Jordan's in Allegheny County and goes to Fort Hill. All right, we're in the same county. And broccoli? Ah, all right. If you need help accessing the chat box, there's a menu at the bottom of your screen. It's the little box with the lines in it. Sean is in Baltimore, and another onions. Diamond. Oh, now they're coming in too fast for me to read. Lori doesn't like seafood. Cameron also does not like tomatoes or pickles. Andrew, another seafood. Isn't it funny how different we all are? Oh, someone's in Alabama. Welcome. Is it Lara or Laura? Any type of chicken. Interesting. I would think chicken would be a lot of people's favorite food. And Serenity is here from another seafood disliker. So go ahead and keep those chats coming. I'm sure it's funny to see how much people have in common or not. A lot of the people who just like seafood and onions and a few tomatoes in there. But as we keep going, we need to, let me just keep my, can we go to our next slide, please? Wait, oh, Carrie doesn't like seafood either?
I don't. And I forgot to introduce myself. I guess I should have done that, but I work for Maryland Business Roundtable for Education, and I'm the Next Generation Scholars Coordinator for Fort Hill High School in Allegheny County, and so excited to be hosting the Adulting 101 workshops for you guys. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you. We have somebody who doesn't like sauerkraut. I like sauerkraut too. So thanks for introducing yourself. So again, you're going to learn how to set a casual table for your family, become more familiar with a more formal table for those business settings and more formal settings. But ultimately, both table setting and etiquette come down to showing appreciation and respect. So when you set a proper table for your family, it's a way of showing appreciation. It's a way of showing I care enough to do something nice for you. Etiquette, manners, that just comes down to having respect for the people with whom you're eating. So as we go through our housekeeping, if we hop back 2 slides, one slide forward, there we go. So of course our microphones are off unless you're speaking. I believe is there a raise hand function on this one, or is that just Zoom?
Yes, no, it's to the right of the microphone and camera.
Okay, so if you have a question, go ahead and use that raise hand function, and I'd be happy to stop at any point if you have a question. So go ahead and use that function to raise your hand, and then I will be asking you some questions. So go ahead and unmute to answer those questions. And just because we've been separated for so long, it would be wonderful if you could to keep your cameras on. So next, before we go any farther, next slide.
I think someone has a question.
Oh, already. Okay, I'm reading. Yeah. Who's our question? Oh,
I think it's Kayla.
Can you read it to me? Scrolling up.
We didn't have a question. We were just testing it out, the function.
Oh, okay, good. Well, I'm glad it worked. We still
okay, that's all right.
Yeah, we still have some other folks who are chiming in. Somebody doesn't like mayonnaise.
And Diamond also has one as well.
Has a question or knows how to raise their hand, or has a least favorite food?
Raising their hand, and Diamond had her hand raised as well.
Diamond, you want to unmute to ask your question?
I didn't mean to do that.
Oh, that's okay.
That's okay. Everyone's testing it.
Yeah, we're working it out. And Dominic is very easygoing. No preference on food as long as we're fed. So here's our materials race. In just a moment, if you're going to learn how to set a casual table setting, you of course need to practice. So in just a moment, I'm going to give you a list of materials, and then I'll give you, oh, there we go. We'll give you a few moments to go and gather them so that we can work together on setting our table setting. So you will need a plate, a spoon, a napkin, a fork, a knife, and a glass or a cup. So you've got your list. Ready, set, go. Okay. So you're running off to get your materials. I happen to have mine nearby. I have my plate. I have my napkin. I got my fork. I've got my spoon. Got my knife. And I've got my glass. So I have my materials. And I am going to count.
Maybe we could have them type ready in the text once they're ready to go.
Do that? Okay. All right. When you are ready to move on, type ready. That makes sense. Oh, look at that. Savannah and Kayla are speedy today.
Awesome.
Maybe they're working from the kitchen. That's the funniest thing about working at home.
Right.
All right. Finian's done.
Diamond's ready.
Jordan is ready.
Jordan's ready. We thought we'd try to make this more hands-on, so this is why we're doing this, so you can play along.
It'll be much easier to remember how to do it if you actually do it with me. If you just watched me, I don't know that too much of it would stick. We have some more folks who are ready. Jesse and Makai, Rakeem. Okay.
Cameron's ready. Gabe's ready. Now, it would be really cool if we could have everyone put their camera on so we could see that they're ready. So don't be bashful. That's part of the fun.
We can see Drew's got his dishes, silverware. All right. So for this part, Carrie, we probably don't need the slideshow because the next slide just says casual table setting.
Setting a casual.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go off.
Yeah, only because it would probably be better if they could see the best that they could. So, all right, perfect. Hi, Finian. Okay, so if you have your materials, first we're setting a casual table setting. So a casual table setting is one that you use every day if you're setting a table to have dinner with your friends, dinner with your family. It's informal, not fancy, but this is the table setting that you will use 99% of the time unless you happen to be royalty, which I am not. So we're going to start with our plate, and your plate goes in the center, which of course, not rocket science. Surprise, surprise. All right. And then your fork is going to go, now, you've all made it this far in life. We are going to be opposites, okay? So on my left-hand side, which is going to be your left, got it, okay? Your fork goes on the left-hand side, and the way that you remember that the fork goes on the left is that fork has 4 letters, F-O-R-K, and left has 4 letters, L-E-F-T. So your fork is going on the left, okay? You need your knife, okay? Your knife is going to go on the right. And when you are setting your knife down, the part that does the cutting goes toward the plate because it's very rude to have the sharp, dangerous part pointing at your neighbor. So the sharp part of your knife has to be pointed inward toward your plate, not toward your neighbor. I can see we've got some people following along. Well done. All right, our spoon is also going to go on the right-hand side, outside of the knife, because the spoon is much safer, of course, than the knife. Don't hurt anyone. And the way that you remember which is which is that knife has 5 letters, K-N-I-F-E. Spoon has 5 letters, S-P-O-O-N, and right has 5 letters, R-I-G-H-T. So if you are ever stuck on which is which, fork goes on the left, both have 4 letters, knife and spoon go on the right, all 3 of them have 5 letters. Of course, you must have your handy dandy napkin. If you'd like to make it snazzy and fancy, you can fold it however you'd like, maybe in a triangle, but your fork is rather lonely. Your knife and spoon have each other, but your fork is just so tragically lonely that we're going to put our napkin underneath our fork. So there we have our everyday casual place setting. And of course, it's summer, I'm feeling very, very hot. We need to have our glasses. Now, the glass actually goes on the right-hand side above your knife and your spoon. And the way that you remember that is this. Okay, if you put up your fingers to make a B and a D, D stands for drink. The D is on the right-hand side with your drink. That's how you keep track of that. So D for drink, you can only make a D with your right hand. As soon as you make the same symbol with your left hand, you've got a B. So D for drink, and that's how you know which side your cup goes on. You got this? All right, good. Good, good, good. Okay, so this is your casual table setting. Pretty easy, pretty simple. We have a few tricks, but let me tell you how to elevate it for a more formal setting. So if you are attending a wedding, or if you are attending a formal event where someone's being recognized, you'll find that there's some more silverware on the table. And there's no trouble with that because really there's the simple rule of working from the outside in. So if you sit down to a table and there are all of these utensils and you don't know which is which, The only thing you have to do is follow along in the order of the meal. You'll work your way from the outside in. So, for example, I have, so you don't have these, well, I mean, you might have them, but I didn't ask you to get them. So I have my smaller fork, which is a salad fork. And so I'm going to put that to the left of my dinner fork, which would mean my first course would be salad. I would use my fork on the outside, the one that's smaller. And then after the salad course is over, the server would remove my salad plate and my salad fork, and the only thing I would be left with is my dinner fork. Also, if you were at a meal where they were serving bread and you had a bread plate, that would go in the upper left, and that handy little trick about B's and D's follows through. B is for bread, bread goes on the left. D is for drink, drink goes on the right. Now, sometimes you might have a separate butter knife, which would be on, it would go on your plate. It's actually placed so that the handle is facing you. And a little, if we're going to get technical, which in general, all you need to do is work your way from the outside in at a formal dinner. But if you'd like to show that you really know your table etiquette, you would, using your knife, if the butter is not already on your butter plate, sometimes they serve you, sometimes they already have your butter plate preloaded with butter, your bread plate rather. If they have not served you butter, it is proper technically to take, using your butter knife, get yourselves a big slab of butter and put that on your plate, not buttering directly from the community butter to the bread. It's appropriate to put it on your plate first. Also, if we're being technical, and I'm not trying to scare you, I'm just trying to give you the background. Technically, any food that goes up to your mouth should be eaten. So to technically be proper at a very formal dinner, you wouldn't take the whole roll and butter it all at once and then take a bite and set it down and take a bite and set it down. The proper thing to do in a formal setting is to tear off a piece of bread, a bite-sized piece, butter that bite, and then eat it. And then, you know, chit-chat, yada, yada. Tear off another small piece of bread, butter that bite, and eat it. Because technically, the only food that you bring to your mouth should be eaten. You shouldn't pick it up and put food back down. Another thing, if we're being technical and trying to be fancy, which maybe all of you are going to grow up to be very fancy people. I tell you, I don't use these things on a daily basis, that's for sure. But technically, once you pick up your silverware from the table, it never goes back to the table. Well, what if you don't want to sit the whole meal like this? All right. So there are two, like, it's almost like, you know how they talk about like hand gestures and like communication without speaking? There are two things that you can do to communicate with your utensils. So take your knife and fork. Okay, let's say that you need to excuse yourself to go to the bathroom. Well, you clearly cannot take your knife and fork with you. Okay, your knife and fork are going to go almost in the shape of a T for timeout on your plate. And that signals to the waiter, I'm just taking a pause, I'm resting. This is resting position. Okay, if you are completely finished your meal and you would like for the server to remove that part, so, or even if it's, so if we had like a salad and a salad plate, the way that you do that is that your knife and fork become parallel, and then we tilt them to the side so that the knife is pointed at like 11 o'clock. Like the top of the knife is pointed at 11 o'clock. And I have a handout for you that Mrs. Pannoni or Carrie will send, and it has a picture of it because I know I'm far away. Let me just check my notes to make sure I have not forgotten anything. Okay, I added my salad fork, that's good. And then, sometimes you will see a fork and a spoon at the top of your plate, and that would be your dessert fork and your dessert spoon. So you're going to leave those there until dessert comes. Now, sometimes they will bring out the fork and the spoon with the dessert course. So it might not always be above your plate, but if you do have a fork and a spoon above your plate, that's for dessert. So again, formal, you work from the outside in, and if you can remember that, you are good. So the next part, do we have any questions on table setting, either casual or formal? You can look for any hands. Any questions in the chat box? Okay. Okay. Next. Oh, wait.
Jessica, one
Yes.
thing I was going to say, maybe you should scroll on your laptop, because you were kind of going in. I don't know if your laptop's wanting to, because the lack of activity,
Oh.
you know.
Yeah. Can you see me now?
Yeah, it's like you were going in and out. I didn't know if it was timing out. So
oh, thank you. Probably. Okay. So are we okay now? No questions? Yeah. Everyone is experts at this table setting stuff? Oh, good. All right. So now we're going to get to etiquette. And the first thing we're going to do on etiquette is I actually have a handy dandy helper, and he happens to be my husband, Mick. So come on in, handy dandy helper. All right. So for this portion of our food, for this portion, he is going to be the dinner guest that you do not want. Okay. So what you're going to be looking for as we begin this part, here he is what are the problems with his etiquette? So I have, okay. So for this, you can either go ahead and start eating. You can either unmute yourself and just chime in with what the problem is.
No knife.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to. You can chime in with what the problem is, or you can type it into the chat box. So, go ahead, start eating.
All
Enjoy.
right. Fantastic.
How's that avocado? Pretty tasty today?
Very good.
Delicious?
Delicious.
Couldn't be any better?
Delicious, yes. Yeah.
Okay, pause. Oh, somebody caught something.
Oh, somebody said something.
Who was it? Oh, was that Alexa? I'm having trouble seeing this far away.
Alexis, elbows on the table.
You got it. All right. So one of our first problems in etiquette is elbows on the table. It is not appropriate or proper to eat with your elbows on the table. They should remain off the table. Wait, I'm seeing more. Oh,
yes.
Oh. Okay. Is it
Chewing.
Makai?
Yeah,
Excellent.
Makai, Kayla, chewing with their mouth open.
Chewing with his mouth open. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cameron, Andrew, all said that.
Okay, good job. Good job. Okay, next. Chewing with mouth open. Good.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think
We're going to keep going though. So keep doing exactly what you're doing, because there's one thing on here. Well, actually, there are two so far that everybody has.
Do you want me to correct myself? Elbows off the table?
Yeah, take your
Okay.
elbows off the table.
Okay.
Do not do not chew with your mouth full, but keep on eating.
oh, Diamond picked up one. The spoon
Okay,
is on the
Diamond,
wrong
tell me.
side. The spoon is on the wrong side.
Thank you, Diamond. Good job. That was just me. That wasn't his poor manners. Okay. Ah, there we go. Thank you, Jesse. We've got a phone. All right. Wow, Jesse and Andrew, I think your parents must
That
talk
was
to you
my
about.
friend.
I know you have so many, but look, I'm a good friend, so you can pay attention to me. So
Slouching.
of course. Oh, who was that? Well done, Laura or Lara.
Laura.
Slouching.
Yes.
Yes. So
Yeah.
let's go back to, yep, sit up straight, my friend. There we go. All right, so phones, of course, we do not use them at the table. Number two, they should not actually technically be on the table. So if you need to put it underneath your leg, if you need to set it on the floor, if you need to leave it somewhere, technically, phones should not even be at the table. Yes! All right, we got it, Savannah. Gentlemen, males do not wear hats at the table. So
Very good.
funny thing. That rule technically only applies for guys, because when all of these fancy rules were being made up, ladies wore hats as part of their outfits, as being like stylish, stylish accessories. So technically, the hats off at the table only applies to males, but I have never, I mean, when I
think
wear,
it's time to change that.
yeah. But if I wear a baseball cap, I wouldn't wear that at the table. And also, good catch on the slouching. Yes, your posture matters. It's a sign of respect for your colleagues. So if you're hunched over like this, it makes you seem inattentive and bored. So for sure, watch out for that posture. Now, there's something that nobody has caught yet, but keep eating. But I think we've almost caught everything else. I'm still waiting for it.
Oh,
He's sitting up straight now. He doesn't have his hat on.
He set his knife
there
on the
it is.
table.
there it is.
All right, napkin. Okay, this is so funny that this was the last thing. This is the first thing that you do when you sit down at, oh yes, oh good, there's another one, Savannah. We'll get back to that, but the first thing that you do when you sit down at a table, your napkin goes in your lap. So if we want to be technical, if you are at a party or an event where there's a host or hostess, someone who's invited you to the meal, technically you should wait until your host or hostess puts his or her napkin in his or her lap, and then that's the cue for you to do it. But since most meals that we attend, there's not someone who's technically hosting the meal, just as soon as you sit down, the first thing you do is put your napkin in your lap. Also, never, ever, 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 ever blow your nose at the table with your napkin. So if you are just absolutely dying to blow your nose, excuse yourself from the table. Also, Savannah, you were right. Technically, our utensils should not go back to the table. They should be in the resting position. If you're going to talk with your hands and need to speak, you're going to set them back at that T for timeout resting position.
Which I think there would be more germs on the table too. You would want that.
That's right. That's right. We're very worried about germs. Okay, so you managed. Well done. You are.
One more thing. When do you eat?
Oh, okay. So that's a technical. So, dear, you had the basic etiquette.
Okay.
So, and you there he goes. Back off with his hat. Thank you. Oh, do not do that. But anyway. Okay. So technically, there are some. So those were the basic manners, and you caught them all. But the more technical manners that I just wanted to go over. Do not eat until everyone is served. So that is considered to be rude. So at a restaurant, if your food is coming at different times, wait until everyone is served. Now, if you happen to be served if you happen to be served last and other people have been served first, you could say, oh, please eat. I don't want your food to get cold. That could be something you could do. But if you happen to be the lucky one who gets your dinner first, it's polite to wait until everyone else has also received his or her meal. Also, for those times when you do have a host, so someone you've been invited to a dinner party and there's someone who's in charge, you do not eat until that person starts eating. Just like technically, you don't put your napkin in your lap until your host or hostess has put his or her napkin in his or her lap. Also, the rule about not eating till everyone is served, it goes for every course. So if you have a salad course, you don't eat until everyone gets their salad. If you have a dinner course, you wait until everyone gets their entree. If you're having dessert, you wait until everyone gets their dessert. So that rule applies to every course. Remain at the table until everyone is finished eating. So just because you're finished eating doesn't mean you get to cut loose and leave. Do not reach for food. Ask for it to be passed. That's a big no-no. Can you imagine? My hair's so long, I'm always dropping hairs everywhere. I would get my hairs on everyone else's food. Just like when we were talking about technically for the bread, you had to rip off a small piece. Technically, you cut each bite as you eat it. So when I was little, I can remember my mother would like take my plate and cut up every single thing on the plate so I could just eat it myself. And that's kind of, so when I did that when I was little, I did that when I grew up too, because my mother always cut all of the pieces. But technically, you only cut one piece at a time, eat that, cut your next one, eat that. And also, I believe it was Savannah who caught it. Once you pick up your silverware, it does not go back to the table. So, anybody have any questions on etiquette, table manners? Okay. have to do one last thing before we go to the survey. I need for you to, sorry, my hair is so hot. I know I shouldn't be touching my hair. I can't help it though. Mix up your place setting. Jumble it all up. Jumble, jumble, jumble. Jumble, jumble. All right, everybody's jumbled? Okay. So, when you are finished, you're going to type done in the chat box. No cheating. You're going to arrange your table as fast as you can. On your mark, get set, go! And tomatoes are. Okay. Oh, we're looking good, Andrew. Oh, I can see Gabe's working hard with enthusiasm. Oh, whoa. Here we go. Oh, yeah. Okay. Excellent. What if they serve relish or some type of condiment to put on the food? How do you do it? Good question. So, do you mean, I would imagine that it would be probably the same rule as butter. Go from the like the community pot of relish to your plate, and then relish to bite. What would, I mean, if you were being like, this is only in the super fanciest of situations. So most days when we sit down, like that's why we practice the casual table setting. When we sit down for dinner and we're all here and we sit down, we have a nice meal, we set the table, we have one thing of butter, and I just get the butter and I butter my entire piece of bread and I eat it and I set it down. I mean, that's casual. That you're eating with family, you're eating with friends. We're talking if you happen to eat dinner with the Queen of England, then you would do these ridiculous things like tearing off a small piece of bread and buttering it one at a time. But in general, you know, just be yourselves, just be polite. That's why, you know, when my husband was here, he was doing the general types of etiquette. But, you know, you don't need to be nuts about putting your silverware back on the table if it's your family. It's your family. This is just for those times when you're trying to make an impression like, I really know what I'm doing. Okay, so no other questions. Okay, I have a question for you. Oh, wait. Do you use your fork and knife for stuff like chicken and stuff, or can I eat that with my hands? Oh, good question. Okay, so that was funny. If it is a finger food, like a recognized finger food, go ahead and eat it with your fingers. That is perfectly okay. So if it is chicken wings, that is universally, not universally because it's a cultural thing, but universally. So in our culture, we eat chicken wings with our hands. So eat chicken wings with your hands. If you have a drumstick, in our culture, we eat that with our hands. Eat it with your hands. Does that answer your question? I hope. Yes, okay, good, yes. So if it is a recognized finger food, like French fries, for example, corn. How do you eat corn on the cob? Oh my goodness. Wow. Well, I mean, again, it's a recognized finger food in our culture, so you would go ahead and eat that. But that's funny. I know I'm picturing myself like buttering like one row at a time. So to be frank, at a very formal situation, they wouldn't serve finger foods. They would serve foods that are more formal. So I don't know that you would necessarily have to worry about that. But that was a good question too. Okay, but no, my question's for you. Okay, how are you going to remember which side the fork and the knife and the spoon go on?
List their answer in the chat, right?
You can either do that or just speak up. How are you going to remember which side the fork goes on, which side the knife and the spoon? Aha, Alexis, left and fork. Yep. The number of letters. There we go. How many letters are in left and right? Very good. Excellent, excellent. Left, fork. Yep, you got it, you got it. And then, of course, the fork is all by itself, so the fork is lonely, so it needs the napkin friend. The napkin goes on the fork side to keep the fork company. And then, how do you remember which side the drink goes on? Ah, good job. You guys read my mind. D for drink. So I'm telling you, every time I set the table, you can see me as I put the things down, I do D for drink. I can remember the fork and the knife and the spoon, but for the life of me, I cannot remember which side the drink goes on. And you'll see as I'm putting the water glasses down for everybody, I'm making my D. So D for drink and B for bread. All right, Miss Carrie. So I think we hop over to our survey. I'm impressed.
All right. We have a quick survey we'd like you to fill out. Obviously, we're so excited that you were able to participate today. And part of our work, we like to do surveys to get, let me go ahead here and do these surveys, if you would, quickly. If you have an iPhone, I'm not sure about Android, but iPhone, if you take the camera and take a picture of the QR code, it will take you directly to the link, or you can type this link, surveymonkey.com/r/QVZ67W2T. Sorry.
Or Carrie, you could always, you could probably put that link, if you copy and pasted that link into the chat box, that might be helpful too.
Yes, that's a good
Alexis
idea.
said newer Androids have it. Laura wanted to know, oh, good job, Finian. Good suggestion. So, water. So typically when I was referring to drink, I was referring to water. So, and I almost, here, I'll be right back. Let me get.
All right, there you go. The chat has the link to the survey.
Okay, so if you were at a meal where they were, I mean, you guys are a little young, but you won't always be young. So if you're at a meal where they're serving wine with the meal, the water glass is going to go on the inside, like above your knife, and your wine glass is going to go to the right of it. So I would imagine if you were having, you know, water and lemonade, technically your water would go on the inside and your lemonade would go on the outside. I'm not entirely sure because I've only seen like the table setting diagrams that include wine with a meal, not the other drinks. If that answers your question.
Tea, you're right, Laura.
Oh my gosh.
Tea, sweet tea will be served.
Says, is it the same for left-handed people? And the answer is yes. Great question. Now, there are different ways. If you've seen people, if you've eaten with people from different cultures. So in America, most people, when we eat, so our fork is always on the left, even if we're left-handed. But so our fork is on the left. For if I'm cutting something, I typically stab with my left fork, cut with my right, and then switch hands and do my eating with my right. You'll see that in some cultures, what they will do is they'll stab, they'll cut, and then with their fork tines facing down, they eat with their left hand with the fork facing down, if that makes sense. Carrie, it says I have to sign up. What should I do? The link has to sign up? Is there a sign up on the survey?
Has everyone else been able to do the survey? Give me, just say yes or take.
In the South. Oh, Laura was saying in the South, you're always going to have, thank you. Yes, that's funny. Okay, other people, I wonder why we have to sign in there.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe get back out and try the link again, Ren. You shouldn't have to sign up for anything. It should just take you directly to the link. Or are you talking about the QR code? You could go off if it's easier for you to unmute.
Oh, it says to sign in at the end when the survey is done.
I figured it out.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Thanks.
But the other thing that the Laura is it, I'm sorry, I'm probably pronouncing your name incorrectly, but eating is a very cultural thing. So all of the things that we discussed are how we eat in our culture. So you're right. In the South, when they said about the sweet, it's water and then sweet tea. I would imagine the sweet tea would go to the right and that your water would be on the inside, that it would follow the rules of the wine glasses as well. But I'm not sure. That's a great question. But that also goes to watching your host. So if you're in a situation where you're not entirely sure what to do, keep an eye on your host and follow his or her lead. So that's another thing to know as well. So Carrie, if they've completed their survey, is there anything else they need to know?
Well, I just was going to wrap things up. I want to thank you, Jessica, first of all, for your wonderful demonstration. I learned a lot, and I'm sure everyone on the workshop learned a lot. And keep in mind, these are things that maybe you're not going to use right away, but we're trying to prepare you for your future and the opportunities maybe in college or in your future careers. So you'll be ready for that formal dinner, maybe with a future employer. And we just want you to be prepared and know these things and to help you. So thank you for joining us. Next Thursday, or this Thursday coming, we have our next workshop, which will be cooking. And join us again at 2 o'clock on the link that I sent in your email. All the links for each workshop were sent in the email, so you can refer back to that, but I'll also do reminders. So
Okay.
I think that's everything. Another thing for our next Maryland Business Roundtable is our Way to Be app. I just thought I'd mention that. It's also a free resource to download for students to help them with college and career and their future. So feel free to download that as well. And we'll see you on Thursday.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for
Bye-bye.
joining us. See ya.